Welcome back, Hooked, the kayak anglers resource. Going to talk about Hobie Kayaks and Hobie everything. I'm in a PA 14 360. JT's got a Outback, but let's get into it and talk about it. JT, what is up, my man?
Hey, nothing. Finally excited to be back out on the water now. Weather's nice. Like we got a good amount of rain, so like the waterways are good. I'm just ready to keep getting at it.
Yeah, man. I know I fished a couple tournaments this year, but it's definitely been a wet spring down here. Water's been up, but it's been a good year so far. Hopefully these spring storms will chill out for a little bit and get people on the water. But
Big change
no,
from last year because we were in a drought already at this time last year. So last year was the worst year of fishing I think I've ever had. There was just nowhere to go and nothing to do. So it's funny what a year ago is like. We're having some floods now. So
yeah,
it's like
yeah,
drought to floods.
it's wild. Well, man, let's jump into it. We're going to talk about some Hobie kayaks. If you guys are familiar with Hobie, well-known brand, they make kind of a line top to bottom that just about anybody can get into. I fish out of a Hobie Pro Angler 360 for 14 360. Absolutely love that boat. It is on the bigger side of the boat. JT's been fishing out of that Hobie Outback. That Hobie Outback is kind of the Swiss Army knife of kayaks, kind of do a little bit of everything. But let's start off with like the lower end, the more recreational, more non-traditional fishing kayaks, and start there. Specifically with the passports. Um, to me, the passports are one of those. It's definitely more tailored to recreational. It's going to be a lighter kayak. They make it in a 10-foot and a 12-foot. It is made out of a different material than traditional kayaks. It's made out of that what is it? The rotomolded polyethylene. So a little bit different texture, a little bit different feel. But the really cool thing about that is the weight saving. So like if you're worried about having a kayak that's not super heavy, easy throw and go, it's a really great option. If you've got, maybe you've already have a Hobie and want to get one for the wife or the kid, this would be a really great option. Still has the features of the kick up fins. It doesn't come with the turbo fins, but you still have the features of the kick up fins. And I believe this one's just the GT, so you won't have reverse on this or the turbo fins. But again, this is more for, I would say pleasure getting out on the water. Very open layout. You've got one storage spot inside the kayak on the center hatch there. But really slick rig. I think if you're looking at car topping something, if you're looking at easy on and off a dock, the Passport's a great starting spot. Hobie Compass, very similar to the Passport. It's definitely a step up from the Passport. It's made out of your traditional kayak material, the rotomolded plastic. Sweet kayak. I really like it. Very simple, very easy throw and go. Again, your wife or kids, this would be perfect for if you're just doing recreational stuff. Very, very simple. So it is going to be a little bit heavier than the Passports, but it is going to be a little bit more durable as far as the material and whatnot too. So, and this one will come with the 180 drive. It'll come with the kick up fins, but it won't have the turbo fins. But still great performing kayak. To me, if you did a lot of river stuff, this would be a really good option. It would paddle well. I like the upgraded rudder on this one. The rudder is better than the one on the Passport. It's more conducive, easier to stow and deploy than the Passport is, and more responsive too because it's on a cable versus a single piece of plastic that turns the rudder on the Passport. So definitely a step up.
All right, which one would you say is the next step up from the Compass?
I'm guessing it's probably the Outback off the top of my head.
This one's near and dear to my heart. This one was one of the first kind of bigger step ups that I got into. So obviously, naturally, I just kind of fell in love with it right away. But I think your explanation of it as a Swiss Army knife is spot on. Was a couple of weeks ago. was like, I'm gonna see what I can do in this thing. And I launched on the river, and river fishing is a ton of fun, but it's just a little bit more complex. And especially when you're by yourself, you got to figure out how are you going to get back to where you launch? Are you going to work your way upriver? Are you going to leave a car and walk up? Like it, that's something I haven't mastered yet. So I just said, forget it this time. I'm just going to see what those fin drives can do, and I'm going to pedal upriver. And I was surprised by how easily, when you got to like really fast moving water, I had to work pretty hard to get past. But man, this thing knifed my way right up the river. And I was able to, I probably went a mile or two upriver with it and then floated back down to my car. So I've put this on every type of water so far and have not been disappointed.
No, it really is kind of a do it all boat. If guys are wanting to do, if they're 50 on river and lakes, small ponds, it really is kind of do whatever you want. So it's starting off with the drive. It's going to have the 180 drive. So you got forward and reverse. It's also going to have the turbo fins. So really good performing fin drive there. Really, very similar to the Compass, but it's going to be more fishing orientated. So you're going to have the capability of putting a transducer on the bottom of it that you can raise and lower, which is really cool because whenever you're coming ashore or loading it, whatever, it's nice to get that transducer up out of the water. But it's also nice to have a stable spot where you can get good readings and returns on that transducer. You're going to get a bunch of storage. It's got a front hatch that gets you inside the kayak. Really, I love that center hatch that they do, and they include one of the buckets on there as well. And that bucket is, you can take it out or put it in, but the bucket's really nice, and you can put those on the Pro Anglers. Of course, with the Pro Angler, you've got to buy the bucket additionally, but that bucket's pretty sweet because it's in there. You can store stuff in there, easy to get to. You've got a lid on there that you can lock and close. This as well, like the Compass, it'll have the pulley or the rudder as well, so you can pop that, unlock that. It's got a little clam cleat so you can lock it up or release it to go down. There's just so much like track on this one as well compared to the other ones. You've got multiple tracks on the front on each side, and then additional tracks in the rear. Or excuse me, you've got additional tracks on the front and then some on the back as well. So they got those bars there that go across in the front, which it's one place that if you need got to carry it, it's easy to pick up from there as well. But that has track on it. There's bungees there for leashes. You've got bungees that'll come over that and connect to that other bar that you can stow tackle boxes in there. The seat is pretty slick. It goes up and down, so you've got a couple different options on there. As far as the front will come up, the rear will raise up as well. But overall, pretty great seat. That one has the BOA system on the back as well, so you can adjust the tightness or looseness depending on how you want it. And then you've got steering on this one on both sides. So whether you're left-handed or right-handed, it shouldn't affect you. You can steer either side. And then the tank well. Tank well is massive. You could easily, I would say, you could probably put 1.5 black packs back there.
Yeah, it's big.
Maybe a 16 by 16 and maybe a 13 by 13. You can probably get 2 of those in there. It'd probably be pretty snug, but plenty of storage back there. That rear handle is mounted to the kayak like the Pro Anglers, so really good grab spots. That front side is the handle with the cord. I'm not a huge fan of that. I definitely like a molded handle, but it works. They definitely haven't had issues with that. But that rear one, another cool thing that people know about it, but they send you with you get the cassette that goes into the drive. So if you just wanted to paddle it, it's not just a gaping hole there. But they also send you with it's like a plastic block kind of deal. And what it does, it has 2 little hooks that hooks onto that back handle. And you're like, well, why? What's that for? So what it does is it hooks on the handle, and then it separates, like it gives you from the handle to the ground, it fills that void because below it you've got the rudder. And so, like, if you're car topping this, if you're, loading it on pavement in your truck, you can slap that thing on there and you're not bending that rudder. You're not tearing up that rudder. So it's pretty slick that they did that. So I know, shout out Marty Hughes, one of our pro staff guys. He throws on top of his truck on a ladder rack, with that. And he uses that to keep that rudder from getting bent and whatnot. But just little things like that, kind of sets Hobie apart. And that's why their price range, is the way it is. But like, you know, it sounds like you've really enjoyed it. If I go to the river, I want to be in an Outback. I don't want to be in the Pro Angler. Like, I can't imagine paddling that Pro Angler when I need to, especially like some of the waters around here. You know, if some people are on like, you know, the Mississippi or whatever, that may be a little different, but that thing is great. You can do literally about whatever you want with it. So the next, you know, kind of, we can divide it up in two or keep it as whole, but you know, you got the Pro Angler, with the 180 drive. So the Mirage Drive, the GT 180 is going to be just like the Outback. Now this is one of the original Pro Anglers that they came out with, and then they came out with the 360 as well. As far as boats, 12 foot, 14 foot versus, you know, the 360s and the they're almost pretty much identical except the drives. You know, Hobie, a lot of guys talk about how they have the horizontal rod storage. You know, on the 12 footer, you have 4 rods. On the 14 footer, you have 6 rods. Um, that's one of those big things that guys really like. You know, maybe they don't want a black pack behind them with vertical rod holders. They've got this horizontal rod holders that you put in there and get 6 rods in there and have plenty of stuff on that 14 footer. I mean, even the 12. The 12's a great, save a little bit of weight, maybe not have to have as much storage. Um, but that's a great option there too. So this one will have the integrated handle that's bolted on, so you'll have a solid place to lift that kayak with. On the 12 and the 14, they've got a huge storage spot, and it comes with a plastic bin that actually goes in there. It's really nice because you can store stuff in there. And you have the ability to, you know, if it, maybe it's long term or short term storage, you know, it's one of those spots that you can probably throw your life jacket in there, your flag, stuff that you know you're going to need when you get on the water, and you can leave it in there. Soft plastics, different stuff like that. Everyone's a little bit different how they do that, but you're able to take that bin out as well. So if it's one of those things like you're storing the kayak, you want to take that bin out, take it inside, you can easily do that. Of course, moving back, depending on the 360 or the regular Pro Angler, you've got your drive there. Again, all those are going to have the kick-up fins, turbo fins. Depending on the drive, you'll have the 180 or 360. So on this one, it's a little bit different. You'll have basically 4 pulleys, 2 on each side. You'll have one. It's called the kickstand, and what that does, it allows you to either raise or lower your seat on the rear position. So maybe if you want to get lower and rougher water, you can lift the back of the seat, pull that cable, and then you can lower your seat. The next one's going to be your skeg. So like most of the Hobies, they're going to have a rudder, but this one actually has a skeg as well. You know, traditional sailing is kind of their background, and they all have the ability to add a sail to them. The skeg's really nice because it really helps you keep that straight line, and still have the ability to steer. So it gives you a little bit more control. Not as maneuverable when you have the skeg down, but it gives you, if you're wanting to stay straight, stay on a line, that skeg really helps. On the other side, you'll have the transducer cable, just like the Outback. You can pull that transducer up into the kayak and get that off the bottom, and then you'll have the rudder deployment on the other side too. You know, speaking more to the rod tubes, they come with some stagers as well that you can mount to the H rails behind you. And so you can actually stage the butts of those rods in the kayak, and you can keep those rods separated. That way they're just not stacked up on each other. Truth be told, I've doubled up on some of the rods in the tubes when I've got too many rods in the boat. So you have that ability to, and people do it.
I'll
You know,
share
if you
video.
want.
People are gonna see the mothership.
Oh man,
Your
I
kayak's
need to
insane.
simple it down. I need to get more simple. It's too
As a
much.
as a person who's not a huge fan of clutter, your kayak, like, I'm jealous. I love all the stuff you've done with it, and you've got that thing, like, looking nice, but man, all this stuff, it's crazy what Jonathan throws in his kayak. It's
It is.
intense.
It is. I need to tone it down a little
You
bit, but
just need a refrigerator and a little
yeah.
couch, and you can live in it.
Yeah. Um, you know, moving back the seat, I love that seat. I absolutely love that seat. You can raise and lower the seat as far as you know, if you wanted to sit down lower, but you also have the ability to dial that seat in backwards and forwards and lower with their cable. They've got cables on each handle that you twist to loosen or tighten. So you can really dial it into what's comfortable for you on, especially when you're using the pedal drive. Now, I still throw a foam pad on there, just because I could be out, 8 to 10 hours. It helps anytime you get something on there. But honestly, you could use it without. It's a great seat. Again, you got the BOA system on the backside, so it allows you to adjust, for your lumbar support. But overall, great seat. Transporting wise, I suggest taking it off because those seats aren't cheap. But there's you can strap it down or do something like that as well. Um, Same huge tank well in the rear. Of course, on the backside and the lower, you're gonna have the skeg and the rudder down below as well. Now, when those pop into the kayak up in the kayak, they are a little bit more protected than the Outback because you got two gunnels on either side. You've got two drain plugs on the backside as well. So if you do get water in there or whatever, get some rough water, you can drain that water. And then you have the integrated handle that gives you a really good lifting point. Lake wise, big water wise, offshore, the Pro Anglers are great. Definitely a little bit slower boat, but I've been very impressed on what kind of speeds I can get with that 360 drive or the turbo drive. That boat as well cuts water really good stability. Definitely not as fast as the Outback, but you've got a little bit more weight there too. But
I
I
was
absolutely love the Pro
it
Angler.
I was blown. I got to sit in yours, and I was almost intimidated hopping from the Outback up to the Pro Angler, but I couldn't believe how well the fins moved that big
Yeah,
of a kayak. Like,
yeah,
it was, once again, surprising. Yeah, not as fast, maybe doesn't respond to the turning quite as much, but way more than you would probably think. And
yeah,
really, we did a podcast a couple of weeks ago on the best kayaks for the big and tall, but and if you need space, it's hard to beat the amount of space you get in this thing. I just couldn't believe how much space was on the sides of the seats. You feel like you could get up and do yoga or like a workout in that thing. Like,
yeah,
there's just so much room. It's
yeah.
so comfortable. Like, it's awesome.
Yeah, you were talking about turning radius. Once you jump up to that 360, if you pull that skeg up, that's going to give you more turning capability. But you
Mhm.
can literally turn that drive sideways and turn in a 360 without making a big radius too. So, if it's one like the Ozarks, if you're fishing docks and you want to get in behind docks and be maneuverable, that's a really good option. Um, but definitely more lake boat. I can't imagine taking it down some crazy water. Maybe I should one time strip it down
Yeah.
and go and see what happens if we
See
get
what it
good
does.
content. But I can't imagine having to paddle that thing. That's kind of the downside. And then that one too, well, it'll come with two paddle clips on the backside. So you can break down that paddle, lock those in the backside. And that's usually where my paddles stay, honestly. So I haven't been, I haven't had bad luck enough to need a
Yeah.
paddle anywhere. So I've been pretty fortunate there. That's the majority of their line of top to bottom. Let's jump into some of their maybe hybrid or more just different ideas. So they do the iTreks, they do a 9, 11, and they do a Fiesta, which the Fiesta is nuts. If you haven't looked at one of those, go check it out. But what those are inflatable. They're very similar to paddle boards. So if you like super simple, super light, if you're traveling, it's amazing how they fit this kayak seat, rudder, pedal drive all into like a massive duffel bag with wheels. It's got a handle so you can literally roll it around. But if you're traveling somewhere, maybe you're going somewhere on vacation, maybe you do a lot of traveling, it's one of those things that you could take with you. You could probably leave it in the back of an SUV or trunk of a car and have a kind of throw and go boat. Um, I haven't been on the iTreks. I have been on another one that's very similar, and we'll talk about that here in a second. But they look amazing. They look super, like, to me, these may, and I don't know, maybe I was wrong on the Outback. Maybe these could be faster because being inflatable, they're going to sit on the water. They're going to glide on the water a lot better. Um, but still great quality. Adjustable seats on these as well. And they design those seats. You can pull them out and sit on the ground too. So if you're, on the beach somewhere or whatever, you can pull it out and throw it on the beach and sit down. But it's really cool, like I said, as far as it being able to deflate, pack up, and kind of do what you want, go where you want with it. So they make those in two different sizes. They make the 9 and the 11. Slick boat, just different, different customer per se. Maybe this may not be an everyday go out and kayak or recreation, get on the water kind of deal, but it may be like, hey, I'm going to be here for a month. I want to be able to, kayak fish or get on the water.
Or we have some of our customers that travel in like RVs and camp.
Yeah.
Well, this would
Yeah.
be a great option if you didn't want to take up a bunch
Absolutely.
of space or try to get a kayak on top of your RV or something. This
Yeah.
would be a cool one to explore new waters easily. I mean, how cool is an inflatable that you can drop a fin drive through?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So the step up from these is the new Mirage Lynx. I really want a Lynx. I think if I remember right, I think it's 47 pounds, which to me is crazy to find a boat that's light. But it's very similar to the iTreks. It's going to be um, more like a paddleboard in a sense, but this is going to be that rotomolded polyethylene. So it's going to be actually molded kayak. Um, to me, if you've got a Honda Civic and you've got a car top it, this is the one you want to throw on the top of the car. Um, it's great. You still have all the features of the Hobie quality. It's got a rudder. It's got a stow and deploy mechanism for the rudder. It's got the 180 drive. Actually, which one does it drive? Yeah, the 180 drive with the kick-up fin. So this would give you the ability to go in reverse. Of course, all their kayaks are going to come with a paddle. This one, the seat's really great on it. It comes with a cup holder that connects to the seat as well. But just, I mean, great platform. To me, like, you can get into some crazy backwater on this thing and not be worried if you get in a spot that you're not going to be able to maneuver it. You can get into really shallow water. To me, I think you could do some big water on it as well, some busier lakes, because water is going to come over it, but it's just going to shed off. Again, you're sitting more on top of the water, so it may be a little bit quicker boat. But this is a really cool option. Like if the wife wanted one, I was like, this is probably which route I would go for her. Just seems like, and I think it would do great on the rivers too. Easy to paddle if you got in a spot. But just wild design, really cool though.
That's a good couple of designs there. If you're kind of in between or more of a hybrid paddler slash angler slash want easier transport, because roof-topping them can be difficult.
Yeah.
Just, the bigger they get, the hull shape, the weight, just trying to maneuver them up onto a car, especially if it's a higher SUV or something. So if that's what you want, then yeah, these would be good options.
Hobie does a great job with accessories. Their bimini tops, their sails. I'm probably not the best person to ask on the sail because I've never used it, but it's one of those things that most of their models offer a sail option, so you can put a sail on there and go sailing. The bimini tops are great. They do a bunch of different carts, different accessories that you can add to your kayak. So they've done a good job on there. Some storage options. So, but yeah, crazy, what they're doing. And we talk about motors, but most of these kayaks, we've got a way to mount a motor to that we can walk you through it and see if that's something you want, whether it's a bow mounted trolling motor or a rear mounted motor. Depending on what you're doing, fits your needs. But most of, they do make some brackets. One Objective makes some brackets. So, and most of them are bolt on. So it's really gives you a good option to throw a motor on there too. We had Bixby on here for a while back, and they've got some options where you can put a Bixby on there as well. So, well, we'd love to hear about your guys' experience in your Hobies, whatever they are. Drop a comment down below. Again, hook to the Kayak Slingers resource, the forum on there. You can create your own topics, specifically on Hobie or whatever you want to talk about. Maybe you want to talk about the Outbacks and all that. Definitely resource there and talk to other people that are in the same kayaks. And maybe, if you're looking to do stuff, talk to other people, not just take our word for it, but talk to other people in the community and whatnot. But we'd appreciate it if you guys liked, subscribed, all that good stuff as well. It really helps us. Helps us getting dialed in and what you guys are enjoying, and that will keep these coming to you guys. But,